But you're saying that pharma buys TV spots not to convince people to ask for specific drugs from their physicians, but to subvert the news business?
This is an open secret working for pharma.
I never even thought of that.
This is an open secret. The kind of silly ads you see between the news breaks, the points of that is not, it's marginally to impact the customer, but the pharma's already got that. They've already bought off the doctors. They're good on that. No, this is an open secret. The news ad spending from pharma is a public relation lobbying tactic, essentially, to buy off the news. The news is they're not investigating pharma.
I've noticed.
The news has become basically a referee that you are a terrible anti-science Luddite for asking why, the shots that we require our kids to get that fundamentally by their own advertising change the immune system of that child for life, why it's gone from 20 to 70. To even ask that question, the news referees that and calls you anti-science when the two largest vaccine makers in the country are literally criminal enterprises. GlaxoSmithKline and Merck, in the past 5 years, has settled two of the largest criminal penalties in American corporate history for bribing doctors and creating misleading research, who are the two largest vaccine makers. So you literally have the media playing referee that you can't even ask a question.
When we passed the Vaccine Act, when I was a kid, there was only 3 vaccines. I was compliant. But when we passed the Vaccine Act, it made vaccines very, very valuable. And all of a sudden, there was a gold rush to add a lot of new vaccines to the schedule for diseases that aren't even casually contagious, like rotavirus, like hepatitis B. Why are we giving hepatitis B vaccine to a 1-day-old child? Hepatitis B, the major vectors for that are it's sexually transmitted or by needles. Why would you give that to a 1-day-old child? It's really a profit motive.
Thank you for joining us. And you are a former Vice President of Pfizer. That's good. Could you just tell us very briefly about your position there?
So I was, until 2011, for many years, I was responsible for worldwide research and early developments in their field of respiratory and allergy new medicines. That was it. 200 people indirectly across a couple of sites.
So that gave you a real insight into what was happening in early 2020.
There's not very many corners of this industry I've not had some knowledge of. And when I started noticing former colleagues of mine, including Sir Patrick Vallance, saying things on the television I knew weren't true and that I knew he knew weren't true, that's when the penny dropped for me, probably February 2020. I remember saying to my wife, this is not what they're saying it is, something's going on. And then when I saw not only my country locking down, but dozens of countries locking down at the same time, I would say to your listeners, that was proof, and it's still proof, of a supranational operation. There's no way it could have happened at the local level, at the country level. Therefore, it must have occurred at the level above. Whether it was the WHO or the World Economic Forum or other, I don't know. But I'm convinced that action alone absolutely proves unequivocally that we didn't just get some virus drifting in and then, we all panicked. They all did the same stupid, ineffective, known not to work things at the same time, none of which were in their country's pandemic preparedness plans, because I've read them all, right? So when I accuse these people of lying, I do it confident they're not going to sue me, because I would say, come on, sue me. I'd love to have discovery in courts. You will lose big time. And so they won't sue me. What they do is smear me and censor me, and I don't care anymore, because we're facing something much worse than an alleged virus. At the very least, the things people have been injected with, the injuries to people from these so-called vaccines, I'm afraid, I wish I could tell you that it was accidental, but it wasn't accidental. I've spent 32 years in rational drug design. I know, and I knew, and wrote it, before any of them had emergency use authorization, that they were dangerous. And I'm afraid I'm convinced and would say, with my hand on the Bible in front of a court, a judge, that these injections have been made to injure people, to maim and kill, deliberately.
Talk a little bit more about the vaccines. Here we have reports. Deaths, 18,372. Permanent disability, 17,842. Hospitalizations, 86,452. Emergency room or office visits, 315,048. Serious adverse events, 113,449. This is from the Congressional Research Service about VAERS. All kinds of injuries, miscarriages, heart attacks, myocarditis, permanent disability, neurological problems, and it goes on and on and on. These are the reports from people being forced to take vaccines. Shouldn't have happened. Dr. Marks, you admitted to her that vaccine injuries are real, that they're real. Although you rushed through the authorization, and now you've authorized that children should receive these vaccines, and even babies as young as 6 months old. That is shameful. That's shameful. I'm not asking you a question. I'm going to continue speaking.
In your view, which of the vaccines that are now given to children are necessary, given the severity of the disease it's preventing, versus the potential side effects?
Well, you tell me what disease you consider a threat, because I would say there's diseases that aren't even casually contagious. That most of the vaccines after 1989 were added not for public health reasons, but for pharmaceutical profit reasons. So why are we vaccinating one-day-old babies for hepatitis B when the only way they're going to get hepatitis B is, hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. You get it from having sex from multiple partners in gay sex, or from sex workers, or intravenous drug use. Why would you give that to a baby? It clearly, the only reason, in fact, Merck, when it developed the drug, was told by FDA and CDC, we want you to develop this for those vulnerable populations. And the populations, when they didn't buy it, Merck went back to the agencies and saying, you told us to develop this vaccine, nobody's buying it. And CDC said, don't worry, we'll just recommend it for children. We'll force everybody to buy it. So that's how it got on the schedule. There's no medical justification.
When I looked at the mRNA vaccine, I looked at the Pfizer one and Moderna one, I was horrified. My contention is that there are multiple deliberate toxicities built into these materials, and I can justify that. I ask your audience to think, how is it that their body plays nice with itself, doesn't attack itself unless you're unfortunate and have an autoimmune disease? But normally your immune system, they're like military personnel. They stay in their barracks, they don't harm you. But when you're infected, or you get a cancer maybe, they go to war. And you know the distinction, how it is that your body does that trick? It distinguishes self, all the things inside your body that are meant to be there. It doesn't attack anything foreign, anything non-self, it will attack. So when you take mRNA and get the human body to make a piece of a foreign organism, ladies and gentlemen, that's not my dog. When your body is instructed to make a piece of foreign, non-human protein, every cell that expresses that is now blaring a signal, I've been invaded. Your immune system goes to war and tries to kill it. Every single cell that this material goes into. These could never, ever be safe for a mass market use. If you just give it to mass populations, they will attack their own cells and kill them. That is the reason why you see dozens of different side effects, because it's one mechanism of toxicity, but expressed anywhere in the body, wherever it happens to land. There are many more concerns, but that's my first top one.
And you said this was intentional?
Oh, yes. All four companies, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer, all chose the same parts of this so-called COVID-19 virus. They all chose the same parts. They all chose the bit that sticks out the outside called spike protein. So a couple of things here. If I was leading a drug discovery team, and I did dozens of times, the chances that my peers in the other company will come up with the same solution is remote, to tell the truth. And you would never pick this. Why would you not pick this? We knew from previous work that the spike proteins that stick out from the outside of these microorganisms, are biologically active. They can trigger blood coagulation and they are neurally toxic. They should have picked, if you believe the story about viruses, and I have significant concerns, but if we just go with the narrative, you would definitely not pick the part of the virus that is biologically active. And the fact that all 4 drug companies did it, it's a black swan event. That's deliberate.